Hello and welcome to Netflix versus Cinema, the podcast that goes to the cinema every week, sees a couple of things, stays at home, watches some things at home on the couch, and figures out where money has been better spent this week by rating them all out of 5, seeing how they match up against each other. And we want to start off this week a little bit on a little bit of a somber note, being that we, those of us, if you've listened to this show for a couple of times, you would have heard of us talk about somebody, a character called Happy John, a friend of Shaun and I called Happy John, and we want to send a good vibes and a well wishes and a condolences to Happy John this week. Shaun, would you just like to say why?
Yes, okay. Well, after a bit of an illness, Happy John's mum sadly passed away, and all our thoughts are with him. But what was really nice, because he spent a lot of time, was he actually came out with me and our friend Joe yesterday to see a film with us, which was really nice because we haven't actually seen him for a while because he's been very much
looking after his mum.
Look at his mum. So we're all thinking of you, John, and you take care.
Yes, well said, Shaun. Well said, Shaun. John, hopefully I'll see you soon when I'm on the island. But or we'll see you soon. But yeah, sad news about that. And there's no other way to go about this. But what did you actually go see with John? Did you go see
Abigail?
You went to see Abigail. Yeah, I was thinking that was a John type of film. So let's talk about what it is that we have actually seen in the cinema. So Shaun, this week, what did you see in the cinema?
Okay, in the cinema this week, I saw Back to Black, the Amy Winehouse flick, and Abigail.
And Abigail, yes, and I'm trying to figure out if those are like just very different or have similarities, but never mind. And
I was trying to think that, Toes. I was thinking about that. I thought, are they similar films?
I was like, no, I don't think so. But okay, how about you, Holly? What have you seen this week?
In the cinema, I have seen Challengers, which we saw in a preview on Monday, and I have watched Red Eye on ITVX at home.
Red Eye on ITVX. Yeah. Right, and Shaun, how about you at home? What have you seen?
Okay, well, I watched on YouTube, I found this 1955 film, and it called Violent Saturday. I think it was quite, at the time, it was quite controversial because, it was a violent film, and
I think a film made in 1955 with that title, I would imagine the title alone.
But the reason I started watching it is because it was a CinemaScope film, which came about, and the cinematography was really, really lovely. It was I'm not sure where it took place, but it was somewhere. So you had like a big mine in place, you had a big golf course, and you had like the whole screen, the people in the background, which grabbed my attention, and it had some good, quite a big cast really. Ernest Borgnine, Lee Marvin, big stars for the time.
Lee Marvin, of course, it was violent.
Lee Marvin.
Okay. So Shaun, I know you talk about CinemaScope every now and then, but you just want to actually just sort of explain for those people who might not actually know what CinemaScope was, what that was.
Okay. Well, back in the day when TV started to become quite popular, the cinemas needed to compete, so they came out with various mediums of film, like 3D. They tried 3D, so the 3D films came out. And there was a Cinerama, but it was really, really expensive, which was like a 3-strip post, three projectors, all shown at the same time, which had to be well balanced. And then they came out with an anamorphic lens. It was a French thing, which sort of stretched the screen, so you still had like a wide screen, not quite wraparound, but still. And rather than one person on screen speaking, you could have people like either end of the screen, so you could have someone here and someone here talking, and in the background you could have like big vistas and
so
it was a process to compete with TV, really.
So and this was 1955. They made a CinemaScope thing. So CinemaScope. What was CinemaScope particularly?
It was the ratio. I couldn't tell you the exact ratio. What I should remember, but it was the ratio of the screen, because normally the screens were like 4:3.
Yeah, 4:3. Your TVs were that.
Yeah, and then you had CinemaScope, and different studios had different things for CinemaScope. So there was VistaVision, Panavision.
Yep.
And so there was all these different processes. It was just a wide screen, really. And
it was just saying like, this is really wide. You can't get this anywhere else but in cinema.
And sometimes if you watch DVDs or watch other stuff, you'll see where it's called letterboxed.
Yes, yeah.
Letterboxed, and that would have been a cinema screen because, and it's a shame. When TV started and they would show a CinemaScope film, you used to have what they call a pan and scan. So if you imagine you and me were together on screen talking, the TV camera would move over to me, and then when you were talking it, and you can actually sometimes it's really, really noticeable because it's like whoop whoop whoop. Whoop, you know,
because the TVs couldn't fit. Yeah.
Whereas in widescreen, both of us would be on screen at the same time, you know, talking with the big whatever it is in the back. So it was lovely. I mean, and I think that's probably why I liked it, because it was letterboxed and it was really, really good quality, and it just looked good, you know.
Yeah, and okay, now this is the thing that my point of that I interrupted myself from making was that this is 1955. You're talking about that with CinemaScope. So Netflix versus cinema was happening all the way back then.
All the way back then, it was indeed. Yes, it was. So
the more things change, the more things stay the same, because like even back then you still had people going, "Oh my god, we gotta get people to cinemas," and I think that that's exactly what's going on now. They're like, "Oh my god, Netflix is happening. We need to get people to cinemas." But I think nowadays they're being a lot less inventive than they were in the 50s when they came up with CinemaScope and Panavision and everything like that. And all. I feel like essentially cinema and the people behind cinema need to do a lot more to get people to actually give them a reason to leave their houses. Because if you're just saying, well, the screen's big, TVs are getting pretty big.
Yeah, they are. Yeah, TVs. Well, that's what I mean. That's why, I mean, I've got a fairly decent sized TV, and so it was nice to watch in that letterbox form, you know. So
all right,
I don't think it would have been much so good on a small TV.
Yeah, or on a phone.
On a phone.
On a phone.
And I think that's it. I think that's the thing. It's like we've had this conversation before, I think, where if like with the films that are not widescreen or not spectacular or anything like that, if you watch them at the cinema, it's better because you have to concentrate more. Because if you watch those type of films on TV, like for instance, like the film, let's say Back to Black, I probably would not have been able to concentrate quite so much with that if I'd watch it on TV, you know.
All right, cool. Let us get on to talking about films.
Yes.
Let's go talking about films. Enough with the philosophizing. That is a hard word to say, philosophizing. Philosophizing. All right. So let us kick off this week, and we're going to kick off this week with Abigail. So this is like the big horror comedy. Well, when I hear that, I don't know if it's a horror comedy, but when I hear the synopsis of it and when I see the trailer, I'm thinking this has to be a horror comedy, because the poster for this film is a girl who looks like she's a teenager in a ballerina's tutu, like in a ballerina's outfit. And it looks like she has vampire teeth. So, vampire ballerina girl. I think that's got to be a horror comedy. But sure, tell me about this.
Yeah, okay. So I'll give you a quick summary of the film, quick synopsis. So there's this gang of villains which decide to kidnap this little girl with someone who's really, really rich and powerful. So you can imagine why they're rich and powerful, obviously. And I think in the trailers, there's no, it's not going to be any spoilers to say that. So they kidnap this girl, they take her to this house, and the chap at the house says, right, okay, we've got to keep her. We're going to try and get a lot of money and all that. And so they keep her in chains and all that. And obviously she's all sweet and innocent. And one of the gang members, they say, you're in charge, you look after. And she's like, would you make me a pinky promise that you won't let him hurt me and all that? And then something comes at him. She says, "Oh, I feel really sorry for you," when he finds out, and it's like, right, okay. So, and I mean that's in the movie, and then it turns into, a big splatter, absolutely stupid film that I should with all my things think, oh, come on, man, why are you doing that? It's like the should we say, people get injured, let's just say really, really badly injured, and yet they can still function. It's one of those sort of things where, oh look, I'm pretty sure you wouldn't be able to run as fast as that if you'd have been,
Your teeth have no head left.
Yeah, if you'd lost. Anyway, so and it's a lot of gore and it's a lot of like the normal vampire tropes, and it says that that's in the trailer, so you're not going to get any. If you see the trailer, you're going to know what to expect. Oh, vampires! Oh, I know. Let's have a cross. Let's have oh, daylight. Oh, I know, steaks.
Yeah.
Let's make some steaks out of pool cues and stuff. You know what I mean? And there's all sorts of acrobatics going on, and obviously these people, the crosses, things don't work and all that, and she sort of laughs, and it's pretty damn funny. It is. I thought it's really it is. So it's a horror comedy. And I didn't know it was going to be a horror comedy. I thought it was going to be something like Annabelle, like the I don't know why Annabelle films, those sort of films. But
just trying to be a straight up horror.
Straight up horror, yeah.
Like
but it wasn't
that you would inevitably find disappointing.
Disappointing, yes. So, it was really, really stupid hokum stuff, which was like with a few wise quips, and it was, it was what it was. If you want to see something that's quite funny with all the vampire tropes you could possibly think of, and I thought it was quite. I did find, as I say, stupid. You get like the stoners, and you got one guy who's like super tough. They've picked. So in the build up, they sort of you get a little bit of a backstory to what each of them are. Like he goes, Semper Fi. So one would be a Marine, and then you got some.
Because from what I understand, they do a sort of like Reservoir Dogs thing where the team that they've put together to kidnap this girl and hold her for a ransom. They don't know each other before they
They
don't know each other. They don't know each other's names and everything like that, and they just put them together to do this high secret kidnap this girl and for some reason. And so it does sound that. But I mean, one of the reasons, I think I know one of the reasons why I immediately thought this was a horror comedy is because of the directors. The directors are a collective called Radio Silence. There's two guys, I think it's Matt Bettinelli and Tyler Oplin or something like that. I've probably gotten them the wrong way around, but they also directed Ready or Not.
Okay. Oh right. Okay. Yeah.
They directed Ready or Not, and they directed the last two Screen films. So, but Ready or Not is the one that made me think.
Ready or Not.
What was that, Holly?
I love Ready or Not.
Ready or Not is one of them made me think. Horror comedy. That's what it's gonna do. You're gonna have all the trappings of horror, but they know this is stupid. They know. And so Abigail is like, I usually give horror movies a swerve, but because it's them, I'm like, okay, cool. You know what? I think I might actually want to watch Abigail because I think that there's going to be a lot of stupid stuff in there. That is going to be fun. It's going to be fun.
That's exactly right. Yeah, it's just fun and stupid and. Pretty ridiculous, really. And obviously, there's the ending. You got to expect someone to turn up.
I imagine that there's going to be a tease. I imagine there's going to be a tease for a sequel.
What I think about it now is dumb.
I imagine there's going to be a tease for a sequel, and there's things that has been said about this film. Everybody sort of like, they drop a hint here and there, in which I think that there might be a pretty famous vampire that shows up at some point in the film. Nothing has been said outright, but the way people say it, and I'm just kind of like, okay, I'm expecting him to show up at some point. but anyway, how many stars would you give this?
Okay, I'll give this a 3-star. This one, as I say,
okay.
It was better than I expected, and it was fun hokum, stuff, and so I can forgive all the silly stuff because it didn't take itself seriously anyway, and it was a comedy, so not a problem with that.
Yeah, and as we always say on this, we talk about how Sharon, if she was here, talks about how threes are a very wide band. It's probably the widest band of anything that we do. So you have the low 3, a middle of the road 3, and a high 3. Where would you put it in that?
Middle of the road 3, I reckon. About middle.
Okay, cool.
It was
all
okay,
right, cool.
Yeah.
Good stuff. So that's 3 stars for Abigail. And now we go over to Prime Video at home, and I saw a film on it called Reality. And this is actually quite an interesting film. Shaun, I think you might like this because it's almost kind of like there's bits of this that I think are a little bit experimental, that are a little bit almost kind of 70s kind of like
I like that vibe.
Well, no, it doesn't look like a 70s film, but the approach is one that I can imagine they would have used in the 70s. But yeah, Karen.
Yeah, I was just going to say, it's when you put me on to Late Night with the Devil, which I'm so pleased you did. That was brilliant, because I probably wouldn't have wouldn't have paid attention because it didn't come to the island. So
Yeah, look, Shaun, that's one of my achievements of the year so far. One of my cinematic achievements is putting you in touch with Late Night with the Devil that you did not know had actually existed. so, but yeah, so talking about reality, again, but the reason I think about this is because this is actually when I heard the name reality, I thought it's going to be like some sort of virtual reality thing, or is this real or isn't this real? But no, reality is a person, and reality is a real person. It's a person called Reality Winner. This is her actual name, Reality Winner. And she was an NSA contractor in the States who released some and it's known because you can find this all on Wikipedia. I don't think it's a spoiler to say that she released a document that showed that there was possible sort of like Russian involvement in Donald Trump getting elected. So the first scene you have is she's at work in this contract that she works with the NSA, and you have like Trump saying something on TV. The next scene is her arriving back at her home, and she arrives back at her home one day, and all of a sudden there's two men waiting for her, and they knock on the window of her car and they go, "Hi, yeah, is everything okay? Are you a Reality Winner?" She says, "Yeah, that's who I am." And they ask her to get out of the car. They say they're from the FBI, and they say that they just need her to stay there because they need to actually go into the house and they need to search for something. And she's just sort of standing there going, "Okay, yeah, sure, no problem." I'm being all like friendly and happy with them. And then all of a sudden, more FBI people start showing up and just keep showing up, and they start going through a house and everything. And the interesting thing about this film is that every single word of dialogue that is spoken is taken from the actual transcript of what happened when they tried to arrest her.
Oh wow!
So they've essentially got the actual transcript of when they tried to arrest her, and they've turned every single line that was said. And there's bits in the film as the film is going on where they'll have the transcript on screen as you're hearing the words being spoken, down to all the uhs, and maybe what we're gonna try and do, like every single thing. So all the actors have learned the entire transcript of what was said. They've recreated it, and there's even bits in it where it's like redacted. So obviously, because it's a government thing, the transcript is redacted, and when it's redacted, the characters disappear on the screen. So you're having them on the screen, and then when it gets to the redacted place, it's like, so you release the things from, then they disappear, then they come back, wow. and so it's actually quite an interesting thing. So quite frankly, everything takes place within this house. So there's a bit where she's outside and she's talking about having to get her dog out and going to go look at the cat and all that kind of stuff. Then it goes into the house, into the living room. Then it goes into a room at the back room. And it's almost kind of like a play, but the way it's done is just really, really interesting. I just realized I didn't start my timer again. Never mind. But the way it's done is actually just really, really interesting because it's just a transcript of what people said, but it actually grips you. It's about a 90-minute long film. It grips you what's going on. I remember while I was watching it, my wife and it has a really, really good atmosphere because my wife and my mother-in-law came in to watch the screen. And because this is like a woman and there's just a whole bunch of big burly men because they work for the FBI hanging around with her, there's just this sense of dread, like, oh my God, what's going to happen to her? And straight away, my wife and mother were watching and they said, what's going to happen to her? Is she in trouble? And this was seen all of 5 seconds of the film. And it stars Sydney Sweeney as Reality Winner. And she is really good in it because it's just kind of like, all about the looks and everything. And then little by little, as they try and tease it out of her, what has actually been done, why the FBI here, what's going to happen with that all kind of stuff. I really, really, really like this film. I thought it was good. I thought it was experimental. And I thought there's some times when there's some films where you can argue that this could have been a play. Why did they make this into a film? It's just a filmed play, and this started off as a play. But I think even there's something you get from watching it, like people disappearing off the screen when they're redacted and all that kind of stuff, and even just like about the way the FBI do things, about the fact that it was just this woman with all these burly men. I thought this one was really, really good, and I would recommend that you watch it because I haven't seen much like it, and when you say it's like a transcript, it could just be like boring, but it isn't. And I think it's really good. I think the performances are good, and I think the concept and the conceit and the execution of it is very good as well.
It sounds interesting. So the actors, is there any big actors in it that we would know? Or
The biggest is Sydney Sweeney, and
Sydney Sweeney, right.
she's having a moment at the moment. She's having a moment right now. I mean, Shaun, you probably don't know her. She's way too young. You're like, she wasn't in the 70s. Like, there was one of the actors was in a film that I saw you saw by Chris Morris, The Day Shall Come.
All right, okay.
Yeah, the lead actor in that is in reality as well. Apart from that, I mean, I think there's about 5 people who are actually named in the film. And all the others are just back characters, because most of the film is this conversation between about 3 people and one other person coming in. And there's a guy called Marchand Davis. Yes.
I've just looked it up on IMDb, and it's interesting because a lot of the Sydney Sweeney being, at the forefront of everything, people have a habit of saying, oh, well, it's because she's, young and pulchritudinous, except they don't usually say pulchritudinous because that's got too many syllables. But
who? What does that word mean?
Beautiful.
Okay, cool. Yep.
I'm just being pretentious. But I see from the pictures that she's quite, by Sydney Sweeney standards, quite sort of almost dowdy in it. It's not a playing up to the,
No, it isn't. I think
nasty. I don't say nastiness. It always strikes me as a bit nasty saying it's, Sydney Sweeney is all, getting her boobs out and things, which I think is.
It's difficult to talk about. It's difficult to talk about Sydney Sweeney without. Well, okay, it's difficult to talk about the perception of Sydney Sweeney without using the word bimbo.
Yes.
Right, I gotcha. What's the running time of this? What's the running time, do you reckon?
It is 1 hour 23 minutes. Yeah.
All right. Okay.
Yeah, it's less than 90 minutes. It's less than 90 minutes. So but I think it's because she is playing a real person, and they have pictures, like they have the FBI pictures of the house that she was in, of what she was wearing on the day when they interviewed her. So they recreate a lot of it. So Sydney Sweeney is trying to look exactly like a reality winner, down to the shorts she's wearing, to the everything like that. I think it's great. I'll give it a 4 out of 5, and I would recommend go watch it. Because for something in which not much happens, it's a film about an interview. Pretty much. And the entire film is the interview. I think that they do very, very well to make it engaging and make sure that you actually have make sure that it keeps your attention for the whole thing. So 4 stars for Reality on Amazon Prime. Now we will go on to Challengers in the cinema. And this is, last week I was complaining about this. I'll say complaining. I was complaining about something I hadn't seen yet, and saying how everything I had seen about Challengers worried me because it looks like the tennis was going to be rubbish. I mean, that says nothing about the topic of the film or anything like that. But seeing as it's based around 3 tennis players, and there's going to be scenes of them playing tennis, the tennis playing scenes worried me. And Holly, tell us about Challengers.
Could I just say one thing? I thought the actual publicity bit for this looked a bit like you, Holly. So I did. So I mean, I hope that's a compliment.
I'm going to absolutely happily take that.
Okay.
Yeah. So Holly,
that is a new point of comparison, but I would be delighted to look even vaguely like Zendaya.
So Holly looks a little. Holly looks a little bit like a sepia Zendaya picture. wearing
I also look a little bit like some odd Jennifer Lawrence pictures, so I just have faces that look vaguely like people. Well, I can reassure you that certainly with some of the tennis, Tosin, it is good tennis.
Okay.
Not all of it, but some of it will genuinely make you smile.
Okay. All right. Okay.
So the premise of the film is set over, I believe it's a 13-year period, and begins in 2019. Max has decided to come and give his views, even though he wasn't there, because they don't let cats into the cinema. Mm-hmm. So it's there are 3 main characters, 2 best friends who are at the beginning young men who are in their late teens, and a young woman who is on the way to be the most famous female tennis player ever. Is already up there with sponsorship, and she's not going to go pro straight away. She decides that she's going to go to Stanford and they meet at the junior US Junior Open, I think it is, and
Yeah.
they become they all hit it off, and as a result of it, she ends up going out with one of them. Um, Over the course of the film, you move through various periods of time where you see their relationships between each other, the breakup of the friendship between the men. She marries one of them, but relatively early on in the film, she, when playing tennis, has a fall,
Mm.
and they never quite say what happens to her knee, but it's pretty awful. And there's, with rehab, there's no way she's ever going to be able to play like that again. So she ends up becoming a tennis coach,
Yeah.
and she coaches her husband, and the who is a world leading tennis player.
Yes.
And the friend, who comes from a very wealthy family, has managed to really not achieve very much. He doesn't have a great deal of personal drive. He just sort of muddles on through, whereas she is an extraordinarily driven person, and she drives her husband, and you can see that this is all that matters to her in life is good
Mm.
tennis. Everything else is fundamentally irrelevant.
Yeah.
She has a child. She clearly loves her child, but I think if it were between the child and good tennis is probably going to win. So it's ultimately a very beautifully done film about three people who really like tennis, and one of whom is so insanely keen on tennis that it pretty much destroys her life, I would argue, in some ways.
Yeah.
Um, it's It was an interesting one to see. We got early access with Odeon Limitless, so it was before it was out more widely.
Yeah.
And Steph, Cinema Buddy, really liked it. I was a little more ambivalent and got to the end feeling I was very glad I'd seen it, but I wasn't absolutely sure whether or not I'd liked it. But I thought it was very well done.
Yeah.
Some of it kind of grated for me, and I can't tell you why. I don't have a good reason for it. There were a few things that just niggled, and I kept thinking, I don't quite know why that is as it is.
It's because of the tennis, Holly. It's because the tennis doesn't
It
look
may,
good.
it may
I
be
think
because tennis is not good enough, though. As I say, some of the tennis is good.
Okay.
But what I was interested, did I hear from you about Zendaya and her tennis playing, and that she couldn't learn? So she was unable to learn to play tennis. She had to learn all of it as dance choreography.
All right. Okay. Yeah.
So all of the moves. So when she's playing, she's dancing. She's not playing tennis,
Yeah.
which is quite interesting in terms of, is it tennis then? Not playing tennis, but is that what makes it quite beautiful? Is looking at tennis as, when you know that, thinking about it as a sort of almost as a dance.
Well, yeah. I mean, there are things like that are said by people like me who are really into tennis, and they do say, "Oh yeah, well, you know what? Everything of it, it's and they do say things like that, like it's a dance, it's like a boxing match where nobody gets hit, and all that kind of.
But that's the thing that she feels as the character feels really passionately about, is
Yeah.
that tennis is more than a game.
Yeah. I
And
know
it's about the game itself. It's not even the winning or the losing. It's the playing that matters. And actually, that bit of it is really quite captivating.
Yeah. Yeah. All right, cool. So, Shaun, I think you're about to say something.
I was just going to say that no, it's okay, Holly. It's really great that you were saying you had a few issues with it, because lately you've had a really good one, and it's they've all been really good, and yes, good for you, good for you.
Yeah, now you're going to be really proud of me, because I'm going to give it a 3.
Proud.
I'm giving it a 3.
A 3. Okay, yeah. Cool.
A good 3, and
okay.
I would recommend people saw it, but it's not going to change the world.
Oh.
And
Okay.
But the cast were great. It was well acted. It was well put together. The story is decent. Yeah, annoyed me at times, but that
Yes,
Yeah,
funny. Yeah,
yeah.
being in a cast of tourists or whatever.
you imagine me at the cinema, Holly. If you come to the cinema with me, you'll see me cross my legs and huff and puff and think, oh my God, I'm not with this bloke.
Okay, well, so because it's funny, right? Because you're talking about it being. So I think Luca Guadagnino, he's quite sort of like I think an artistic director. He's sort of like he's sort of like he's the kind of person who would have shots that linger and all that kind of stuff. And it's with this, people have talked about the fact that that's the bit that interests him quite a bit. But there's something I saw on Twitter as a tennis fan, and there's a tennis player called Stefanos Tsitsipas. He's a Greek tennis player, and he sort of, there's sometimes when you look at his Twitter channel, you think like he's almost sort of playing up the whole angle of I am Greek, therefore I must be a philosopher, and he has all this sort of like called philosophy on his tennis and someone just posted this and just put Stefanos Tsitsipas wrote this, and it's a challenger's review. They made it as a joke. They were like, this has to be written by him. And I just thought I'll read it to you, Holly, and see what you think. Yes. This is a guy called Cinema Joe who wrote it, and he was like, challenges, he gave it 5 stars. He says, there is no sport more intimate or erotic than tennis. It is one of the few major sports where 2 players agree to partake for hours in a duel of body, mind, and soul. Naturally, to engage with one that intensely, an inescapable relationship is forged, one that intensifies with every stroke, every bead of sweat, every grunt. It may not be as fleshy as boxing, but arguably a lack of contact is what makes tennis even more arousing. Is it not the anticipation of intimacy more thrilling than the act itself? So it makes sense that tennis is used as a vehicle to explore the dynamics of relationships. What do you think, Holly?
I think that is what the film intends. I certainly, yes, that is part of the intention the film has. Does that mean that is a reasonable review? Well, it did make me feel a little bit sick in the back of my throat. So that might be slightly overplaying matters. No pun intended. And it's got a bloke in it who looks like Chris Messina to continue the confusion.
Oh yeah.
Does look a bit like Chris Messina.
Oh, Josh O'Connor.
Yes.
Never mind. Okay, but I think this is quite good because a lot of the advertising for this film has centered around Zendaya, Josh O'Connor, and Mike Feist on a bed, and the fact that you haven't mentioned that at all makes me think, okay, that's interesting because
that specific bit lasts 15 seconds, maybe.
I figured it might do, but obviously that's the big thing that
it's a way of illustrating the fact that their meeting is 2 people who are close who both like the same girl, and she says she doesn't want to break them up, and unintentionally ends up breaking them up.
Oh, was it unintentional? Anyway, but we should.
Yeah, I would recommend watching it. It is an enjoyable film. I don't think it needs to be seen on the big screen, though, in all honesty.
Ooh.
So if you want to see it and you don't make it in the cinema, that's fine.
Don't go to the cinema, says Holly Nesling. That's going to be the tagline in all the newspapers. Holly Nesling says don't go to the cinema. She causes the death of cinema single-handedly.
In my gift.
Oh, all right, cool. And now let us go forward. Let us go on and let us talk about Violent. Was it Saturday?
Violent Saturday, yeah.
Violent Saturday. So Violent Saturday. So Shaun, you already started talking about this earlier. You started talking about why it is you started watching this film. So just tell us about this.
Okay, so this was a CinemaScope film, and it was like an early CinemaScope film, and CinemaScope, the process which you spoke about earlier, was really widescreen, where you get to see all the characters at the same time. And this was on YouTube, and you can see it on YouTube, and it is just so beautiful, such a beautiful movie. Even though it's like you would say it's a color film noir, it's a lot of melodrama, a lot of violence, and So the characters, basically, the story is there's this gang of robbers that go to this town. They're going to decide to rob a bank, and there's all these other stories and characters going on. Like there's a marriage that's not going too well. There's a sexy bank clerk that sort of, well, she's not a bank clerk, but she's a sexy nurse that gets stalked by the bank manager. And there's all these sort of interweaving stories. Yeah, I know. It sounds odd, yeah.
So I just pulled the face.
Yeah. And so that's the story, and it's all about this build up with all these characters going on. There's Victor Mature, Richard Egan, and he actually plays a drunk. It's the best drunk, one of the best drunk, and he's not totally drunk, but he's a little bit getting that way.
Yeah,
and it's an absolutely brilliant. So you've got a bar scene where the girl sort of comes in and he makes a few comments over there, and he plays it really well, the way he walks, and I've got this big thing about people that play drunk, because it's hard to play. I mean, to play
I would imagine
play a drunk person, it's to play a drunk person is really difficult. So this was, and there's a golf scene where like maybe there's a rich golfer and a wife who's not happy. So you've got all these little threads going on these beautiful, colourful vista things, and then the bank robbery goes ahead, and it goes a bit violent, and things start to happen. Now, what got me into this film to start with was I was flicking through trying to find something. I watched Papillon, which I think we reviewed when we used to do. They don't make them like they used to. But,
yep.
And this came up, and I thought, do you know what? So I started it, and the opening scene when it comes is like this town, like this small American town, obviously from the 1950s. And this coach sort of pulls up with people to come on, and I just thought, ooh, I really like this. This is good. And I think because the way it was shot, and you could tell it was really, you could see so much, and it was a real terrific vista.
Yeah.
But yeah, towards the end, it gets really, really violent. And I think this film was probably quite a bit controversial at the time, because, you would see a lady in a slip, not in anything else, not in like a bra or anything like that, but in a slip. And I think, that it probably could have been quite controversial with the violence as well, because the 50s was obviously,
So McCarthy era.
Yeah, McCarthy era.
Yeah.
But anyway, you see in the background there, that Tyrone Power, he's like, he's got a son. That's right. He's got a son who's like, he owned a mine, so he didn't go to war, and his dad's like, oh, sad, and he didn't go to war. Oh, what is this? And then obviously you can imagine that he's gonna be good, and then all the town's gonna like, oh, So yeah. So what I'm going to say about this film is, if you like film noir, which I suppose is just violent melodrama, isn't it?
It is quite frankly.
So this is most of them are black and white.
It's melodrama for men, pretty much.
Pretty much. But it's like, let's say this is like a soap opera, like I don't know, like, yeah. So a soap opera with violence. You can watch one of those old 50s, I don't know, Peyton Place or something like that along those lines. But it's just so beautifully shot. That's what got me more than anything else. It's just like go on, sorry, yeah.
No, sorry, no. That this is me just looking up the first couple of minutes of Violent Saturday.
Oh, brilliant! Yeah, can you see?
Yeah, I see what you're talking about. I see what you're talking about, that opening shot.
Yeah.
I see what you're talking about, the opening shot.
You can see. So that hooked me, because I'm like, oh, cinema, because this, that's what we like to see. Oh, good. I'm glad you're watching the opening shot. So,
yeah. But I know Victor Mature. Okay, and this is me going to put my old film head on.
Yes.
Victor Mature. Good. Yeah, Victor Mature is one of those actors that I feel. Well, the thing is, like, he was a star at the time, but I feel like he didn't endure as much as some of the other people who were his contemporaries did. So like Victor Mature is one of these people who I look at and I go, yeah, more people don't speak about him. They don't speak of him and be like, oh yeah, Victor Mature, he was Samson and Delilah. But he's just this kind of I think I have a soft spot when you say Victor Mature. I'm like, ooh, I gotta go see this film, because there's not that many films that, like, he's not celebrated as some of the other. He's not celebrated as like your Lee Marvins or even your Frank Sinatras on screen and everything like that. And I'm like, Victor Mature. Oh, okay, let's go watch a Victor Mature.
I think he was a bit of beefcake. For the ladies
at the time.
probably,
Yeah, he was
at the time. But we used to say, yeah, don't be like when we was a kid. It's quite funny at school. Like if you'd muck about and be silly when you're a school kid, but someone got really serious and says, "Oh, don't do that," and that we used to call them victim mature. They used to say, "Oh, don't be so victim mature." But I think that was just a play on the name. You know what I mean?
Probably.
He's not the best of actors. I got to be honest, of that era.
Well, yeah, but actually, to be honest with you, I haven't seen enough of him to actually say how good he was or anything like that. But I do like him. I do like him.
I like him as well.
I think
he's a Robert Mitchum, I guess, a good like a Robert Mitchum rather than being
a bit like a Robert Mitchum, but not as celebrated as a Robert Mitchum. I'm trying to think of the film. There's a film that I saw him in first, and it was a comedic performance that really got me to. And I can't remember where it was. I'm going to have a look for that. Okay. But while I'm having a look for that, tell me how many stars would you give?
Okay, I'm going to give this a high 3. So this is going to be a high 3 star. This one. Okay, I enjoyed it. I watched it, and I watched the whole thing through. So, but I think it was the cinematography that did it for me.
That got you. That pulled you in. Just when you thought you were out, they pull you back in.
Get me back in.
All right, and now let us go back to cinema. And Shaun, it's you again, talking about Back to Black. Well, so last week I talked about Back to Black, and I talked about how I just didn't want to watch this film because it was a biopic. It was a music biopic.
Yeah,
and the fact that I've had enough of them, and I'm thinking, I think I am convinced now that if you're going to do something that's going to be in cinema, that's going to be about a musician, do a documentary. I would much rather watch a documentary than watch a biopic with somebody playing them. But you, Shaun, went to watch it anyway. So...
I did, yeah. I went to watch it anyway, which I wouldn't have done. But the reason I went to watch it was because I knew I was going to see Abigail on Wednesday after work with John, and my niece happened to be over. So I felt I should do something. So we ended up for Pizza Hut. And I wouldn't have seen this probably if my niece hadn't have been there. And I don't think she probably particularly didn't want to see it. Because with Amy Winehouse, apart from a couple of songs, I didn't really know much about her because I was the era she was, and so I thought, I hope this is going to be another like Whitney Houston. You know, I hope this is because, as you know, I enjoyed that one.
Yeah, because there was a whole bunch of stuff you didn't know about. Yeah. Okay, so tell us about this.
Okay, this is the story of Amy Winehouse. I guess most people know it was about, how she started, how she was, and basically she liked this guy and really, really liked him, but he wasn't the particular. And in fact, that's probably the best bit where they meet is probably the best bit of the whole film. It's like where, which I really enjoyed. He puts a jukebox on and he goes, "Oh, this is a great one. This is what you got to listen to." And it's like, "That's when I fell for," and he does all the actions and all stuff. And it is an absolute. I thought it's so good. So he does the Shangri-Las, and. He was the actor in 71, wasn't he? I can't remember his name.
Jack O'Connell.
Jack O'Connell, that's him. Jack O'Connell. Yeah, I really, really liked the way he played. He played a proper wide Cockney wide boy.
Yeah.
And I think the acting was really good. But those at the start when she starts just singing like in a pubby type thing, I was thinking, oh my God, because I didn't like it. I didn't like the singing. I know, or maybe I don't know what song it was, but I was like, it was like caterwauling, and I was like, I'm not going to like this film. It was like, honestly, I was like thinking, oh God. And I remember I looked at my niece, and she looked at me, and we're like, what? But it was pretty horrible, and I thought, oh really? I don't really like that voice that much,
Yeah.
So I thought, I hope it's not like, and then it gets a bit better. There's quite a good soundtrack because there's some other tunes from that sort of era, and then it's about her sort of ups and downs, and you see a bit of her in the studios, and she's quite rude, she wants to do her own thing. It's not about the money, it's about the music.
Yeah.
But I think from the things I've seen of Amy Winehouse, the smaller bits I've seen, I think she plays it really, really well. Because
I've heard good things about Marisa Abella's performance.
So, and as I say, there is the odd moment. There are the odd moments, and obviously the famous ones. The only one I know, I think, was Rehab, and there's a really forced bit. There's a really forced scene where it's like that. Oh no, you need to go to rehab. You know what I mean? It's like,
and the next scene, try to make me go to rehab.
Not quite the next scene, but it comes a little bit later. Yeah. So, yeah, what can we say about this? So, it's basically a life. I thought she died of drugs, but it said that she died of alcohol at the end. It was like major alcohol, so more so. But I really like Jack O'Connell's part. I don't know why. I just thought he was like a proper London wide voice.
He plays Blake, doesn't he?
Blake, Blake. Yeah. So, yeah. I don't think his acting is quite so good, but he's like quite a comedic relief, shall we say, to all the dreariness. The chap who plays, yeah. So I'm trying to think. I mean, I didn't dislike it. There were moments, and there was the odd scene here and there that I thought, that's. And as I say, the pub scene. That was really good. That made me really, really smile because Jack O'Connell's like, "Let's win up." You'd have been good doing that. I could imagine you doing that, folks, putting a tune on the jukebox and then doing the performance. So I could imagine you.
That's exactly how I. That's how I attracted my wife.
Yeah, I could imagine you doing a Otis Redding song or something like that, or.
Yeah, actually, the Bee Gees "Staying Alive" is my karaoke go-to.
Staying Alive. Well, there you go. See, ooh, I can see that. So the acting's pretty good. The actor who plays the father, he's a famous actor. I don't know why.
Eddie Marsan.
His name's Eddie Marsan. Yeah, and he's been in quite a lot of. I think he's hot and cold. In this, he was quite convincing as a London. But then I suppose that's what when they're in British films. I suppose that's much better than sometimes when you see him as like was he in one of the X-Men films? I think he might have been in one of the X-Men films.
He was in Deadpool 2.
Yeah, Deadpool. That's it. So but he was awful in that. So anyway, about this film, the acting was pretty good. It had moments. To start off with, the voice really, really annoyed me. I think with this, I didn't know enough about Amy Winehouse really to get that sort of into it. I didn't know that much about. Yeah, I didn't know that much about Whitney Houston, but I did enjoy that a lot more than
because I actually feel like biopics should work better if you don't know anything about them.
Yes.
Than if you do know something about them. Yeah. Because if you do know something about them, you just spend the whole film going, she didn't look like that, she didn't sound like that. But I think okay, how many stars do you give it?
I'll give this one a middling 3-star. Okay, it's a middling 3-star. Yeah.
Yeah, because if I talk much longer, I mean, I'm just going to be talking from I've already explained my prejudice, how I am already predisposed to not like this film. So I'll give it to somebody who's actually seen it and say 3 stars for Back to Black.
Yeah.
All right, and now we go to ITVX for our final thing this week, and we are going to be talking about Red Eye. So, Holly, you saw this. Tell us about Red Eye.
This is a 6-part series which I came across the day before yesterday and ended up watching all in one evening. Ooh. Because if you start something, you might as well finish it off. And the premise is that a number of doctors have been at a conference in China and are, pretty much as the film begins, are landing back. One of them is played by
Richard Armitage.
Thank you. I can never remember his name. Who has recently been in a car accident prior to his departure and isn't in a great shakes, and had in fact been stabbed. And as they're all looking to get off the plane, they get accosted. Him in particular, as he is apparently being returned to China and being charged with having been responsible for the death of a Chinese woman who is the daughter of somebody who is quite senior in the party, or is very senior in the party.
Yeah.
And he attempts to battle this and says, well, I'm a British citizen, I'm on British soil, I need to be able to see let me see a lawyer, this isn't legal. I say, well, you're not actually on British soil, you're the other side of security. So actually you're not. I'm not sure that I know how that would actually stand up in real legal terms, but let's set that aside. So he is quite invasively interviewed by some, security services of some description, and finds himself being sent back on the same plane with with a number of, though not all of the doctors, who is with one of them manages to storm out and say, I'm getting on with my life.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
They had this conference they'd been at was organized by a sort of public health body, sort of private charity public health body.
Yeah.
And he finds himself, on the way back, escorted by a British police officer who is Hong Kong Chinese born,
Yeah.
and came to the UK as a relatively young child after her mother had died, having been arrested in China in pro-democracy protests. She'd been an academic.
Yeah.
And her father had married again sometime later, a British woman, and she has a half sister who is a trainee journalist and is desperate to get a good story, and begins to realize that there may be a story in what's going on here after a video is taken on the plane or in the airport, say, with of Richard Armitage saying, I'm a British citizen, this is happening, and she spots her sister there and thinks, oh, well, this is real.
Yeah.
So heading away on the plane, it becomes apparent that somebody dies once the plane takes off, and it's clear that there is something decidedly not right going on.
Yeah, because the whole setup of this thing makes me think like a sort of sub Hitchcock thing, kind of like, is he wrong? Do they have the wrong man? Is he the wrong man? Is it over there? And then we're good. Let's find out on this flight back to China.
Well, you also have MI5 kicking around, who of course wouldn't normally be involved in most of this because you would expect them to be dealing with domestic matters. So
gets more Hitchcockian.
So you have what's odd is, it's trivial, she's not the head of MI5, she's a director general. So it's slightly bizarre that she seems to be having direct conversations with the Prime Minister. There are the few things where I'm just like, that's just not how the world works. That's not how it works, but fine. And she is in a relationship with the CIA station chief at the US Embassy. So there's a whole load of things where you just look at it and go, come now. And yeah, things are happening on the flight as they head across to fly back to China on a red-eye flight.
Okay.
On the ground in the UK, they're trying to figure out things that are going on. They're trying to figure out what's going on whilst in the air, with people dying. And
so far, thriller set on a plane.
Yes, thriller set on a plane with a belief that Richard Armitage is carrying something, and he believes he is, or insists that he is not carrying anything.
Okay.
And what is going on? Why is this happening? Who is who can be trusted? Who on the plane is the bad guy? And then logically, is there only one? Is everybody on the plane a bad guy? But who knows?
But seeing as you watched the whole thing in one evening, I'm guessing that these questions and the way they string you along is effective enough to keep you thinking, I need to keep watching.
It is a good watch. I enjoyed watching it. It is not, some of it was quite predictable, but that's fine.
Yep.
There's nothing wrong with sometimes things being quite predictable. I like the cast. I cannot remember it's something Lucy is the name of the actress who is excellent, who played Amanda Ling in Crazy Rich Asians, which is what I don't always think of her as, who is very good. So it's a good cast. It's a slightly predictable but well put together good watch. Would thoroughly recommend it to anybody who's got the time to watch 6 episodes of something on, I think it was 6, on ITVX, who's not got too much on their hands at the time and wants a little bit of escapism.
Yeah, the problem I always had with this film was that I always keep getting it because there was a Wes Craven film starring Cillian Murphy and Rachel McAdams called Red Eye, and that's the one I always I keep thinking of. Yeah, also
it's not the same as that, which I believe I have seen but don't remember very well.
Jane Lucy.
Jane Lucy, thank you. Yes, and she's great. It's interesting because it looks at politics and things, not in a terribly profound, very deep way, but enough to make you go, good to be reminded that the world is complicated. So yeah, enjoyable watch. It's a high 3, but it is a 3. It's not going to change the world either, but I wasn't expecting it to, and I enjoyed it exactly for what it was.
But yeah, what there? I mean,
you must be so proud of me, Shaun, with all these 3s.
I'm so proud of you, Holly. I am. I'm absolutely. That's so good because it. Yeah, but I mean, no, I mean it's absolutely brilliant.
Every 5 I
but don't, I don't.
Worth a 5, and every 3 that I'm giving is worth a 3.
Yeah, no, I know it's totally good, totally good. So I wish they would all be 4s for you. So I really do. But, yeah.
But the good news is I've bought Dune on Sky, so I've managed to watch Dune 2, so I've managed to watch that again.
Right. Okay, cool.
So, and I'm still giving that a 5.
Yeah. No, I agree. There are films that you've got to do that. No, and I'm totally with you on that. I think I give that a 4. I gave that a 4. I can't remember, but no, I agree with you on that. That's totally.
That will be a 5.
Totally
I think,
and same with your other ones, which I agree with quite a few of yours.
Yeah. And this is a good, solid, enjoyable bit of
film. Good, yeah.
Okay,
excellent.
and once again with this whole thing with talking about Holly giving films 5, I just feel the need to say, just check again once from HR just to make sure that you're not feeling bullied. Holly.
Yeah, I don't want you to feel that. I honestly
you're not feeling bullied.
That's the one thing.
I promise.
No.
It's okay, definitely, it's a safe space.
Yeah,
I'll tell you how I really feel.
All right, cool.
Definitely a few, but I'm really, really hoping that one of the ones we see tomorrow, and I don't think it's going to be Back to Black, but I'm hoping we've got Back to Black, Civil War, and Abigail tomorrow, and I reckon at least one of those I'm going to go 5 to.
And I'm so looking forward to that. I'm so looking forward to that. I bet probably you'll hate the ones that I like.
I reckon I will feel exactly the same way you do on them.
Oh, that's so cool. We do with a lot of things. With a lot of things, we all agree. We do agree with a lot of things, and it's just the odd one, isn't it? Now and again, really.
Well, I mean, I still can't persuade you to watch really, really bad shark films.
Well, I tell you what, I might make an effort to watch. Would you watch? So, what's better, Sharktopus, Sharknado, Shark versus Mega Shark versus Mega Crop?
No, I think now it probably has to be.
Not Monsterado.
Do I have? Is it good to have a few drinks first?
Yes.
Right. Okay.
All of them are better. I would recommend Ghost Shark, about the ghost of a great white shark that attacks people when they're wet.
I think
avalanche sharks, which attack are the spirits of the mountain that take the form of sharks and swim through the snow and attack people.
I think it would be good to watch that with someone, because then it would be, I think, those sort of films.
I am prepared to a remote viewing session.
Yeah. We could do that. We should do that one day. We could be like Mystery Science Theatre 2000 or whatever, where we just watch a film and plate it. Don't turn that light on. Don't turn that light on. Don't swim. Don't go in that pool.
You guys might be on your own because I'm sorry. I just feel like life is too short. Life's too short.
You are wrong. Life is not too short.
Life is too short to watch terrible shark movies. Anyway,
no, you are missing out.
I think I saw a trailer for a film. It's not a remake of Jaws, is it? They haven't remade Jaws because
no, nobody's doing that. No one is that dumb.
I'm sure I saw a trailer with like a shark in that coming out. I'm sure of it. Unless it was just my imagination.
Because I really want a new ridiculous shark film to come out.
I'm pretty sure that there's going to be somebody making a film with a shark in it, but there's no way in hell it's a remake of Jaws. There's no way in hell anyone is trying that. But anyway.
Okay.
I'd love to see them by though doing the actual book of it, because the film isn't quite the same as the book.
The film's totally different.
Yeah. No, the book's really good as well, by the way.
Perhaps that's it. No, It's called No Way Up. As a new killer shark drama feature. No Way Up.
I feel like this. On that note, I feel this is a very good time to ask the question: who do you think won this week, Netflix or cinema?
I think the streaming platform run it because it got 1-4.
And you would be correct. Yes, due to reality, we have an average of a 0.3 of a star higher on cinema on streaming platforms. So well done, streaming platforms. Although we're about to watch some terrible shark movies, you are going down.
There's not a lot at the cinema next week. There's not a lot. The only new film over here, because I won't be going to Maine, the only new film over here is actually Challenges, which I haven't seen. So
yeah,
is it worth me watching? Am I going to not like it, Holly? Be honest with me. My sort or not my sort?
No, I think you'll be a bit meh about it, in all honesty.
Right,
if you've got time, then go.
Yeah.
But it's not going to change your world.
Right. Okay. Thanks, mate.
Okay. Cool. And
but it's well done. Okay. So yeah, yeah. It's not, if you don't ever see it, I don't think you'll be crying yourself.
Right, okay.
I feel like it's the kind of film where if you get into the swing of it, then yeah.
No pun intended. No pun intended.
Oh yeah, I see what you did there. I feel like you're either there or you're not. I mean, right, okay. I think that's why I feel a lot about Luca Guadagnino and his films. You're either in with his. It's a bit like Wes Anderson. Like how some people hate it.
Right, okay, yeah.
But I think Luca Guadagnino, you have the whole thing where sometimes people will go, okay, so when's something going to happen in this film? Because he tends to sort of luxuriate. And some people like that, some people don't. But, all right, cool. So just before we go, I'm going to tell you, because Shaun saw Fallout last week. Shaun had this whole thing where he just binged it in a couple of days, where he just couldn't stop watching Fallout. And so I actually went and I watched Fallout as well. I have to admit that, Shaun, at some points I didn't find it as propulsive as you did.
Right, okay.
I didn't find it as propulsive as you did. I think I texted you guys saying that I had this problem because I remember when I watched Silo, and there are quite a few similarities between Silo and Fallout, quite frankly.
Yeah, I've not...
The idea that there's been this massive thing that's happened in the past that means that people have to live in this sort of like underground vault, and going outside is like, if you go, there's a lot of similarities between Fallout and Silo. And Silo got to 2 episodes to the end, and I was watching it going, they have way too many threads. There's too many threads here. They can't bring it all back together. This thing is going to end on a cliffhanger, and I'm going to be annoyed. And 2 episodes to the end of Fallout, I thought the same thing was going to happen again, and I was like, and the fact that it's created by Jonathan Nolan, known as Christopher Nolan's younger brother, Jonathan Nolan and Lisa Joy, who created Westworld. And I have to be honest, I do not trust those guys. I do not trust them. After Westworld, I don't trust them. And
I haven't seen Westworld.
I've only seen the first series.
I think I watched the first episode and it didn't grab me. I might have watched the first episode and it didn't hook me like some things do.
It is good. It's good.
The first season is good, but they do my usual thing of not answering questions.
Right.
Not answering questions, saying, come back next year to find out more. I'm like, get lost. So yeah, Fallout is they're the showrunners, Jonathan Nolan and Lisa Joy, and so I don't trust them, and I trust them to come up with a good story, but I don't trust them to actually resolve anything. Right. And so 2 episodes towards the end of Fallout, I was thinking, I don't know about this, but I have to say they pull it back together, and I think it's almost the perfect blend of, this is the thing we've been trying to do all season long. We're going to do that thing, but when we do that thing, there's going to be more questions. That's going to be like, okay, now we're going to have to go on to another story to continue telling this story. And I was actually like, I think they probably perfectly did it right in that. Okay. I didn't feel shortchanged because I felt like all the questions they were asking and they were trying to find out in this season, they answered them. And then going forward, I felt like they actually gave enough to say, yeah, I want to come back. They have some questions, like the whole, essentially all the action you see happens about 200 years apart. So the stuff you see at the beginning, then they jump to stuff that happens 219 years later. And there's some characters who are in both, who are there at the beginning and then they are there 200 years later.
Yes.
Some of them, they kind of explain how this person is still alive after 200 years. Some of them, they just don't. Some of them just do, but the way they do it, they do it in such a way as in it's just kind of like it's not a big thing. It's just kind of like, hang on, how are they still around? How is that going? Yeah, yes, thumbs up, Shaun. It's like yeah, it's like how is that happening? How's that? And it makes me go, okay, fine. I would actually come back for a second season to actually check it out. But I have to say, Shaun, this thing is coded. There's so many things in it that even you'll be like, yeah, Shaun's gonna like this. Because this TV show is pretty much a Western.
Yes, it is. Let's be honest. It's pretty much.
It's pretty much a Western with some 1960s, 1950s sci-fi trappings. And I think the sort of the aesthetic of the show, the whole sort of 50s theme, the whole kind of it's almost as if like you had technology kind of got stuck in the 50s and then it didn't really go along. So you have all this high tech stuff, but it has like this sort of 50s sheen to it, like 1950s Americana sheen. And I was looking and going, yeah, I can see why Shaun likes this. And I have to admit, it is very almost sort of cutesy. It's very cutesy, but at the same time, they're always when they show you what the reality of a life is like in this sort of like Mad Max kind of crazy silo future, you're kind of like, yeah, it's good. And I really liked it. I thought it was really good.
Yeah, good. I'm glad you enjoyed it, Tosin. I really like you say, the aesthetics. What I liked as well was with the TV screens, because they were cathode ray tube. They were just TV screens, and you didn't have the boxes because obviously that's what they were. That's what TVs were. Was those, and they sort of. They just got a really nice shape about them. I don't know. It's just
from a production design point of view, it's a very well made show. And I think that and one of the greatest things about it is that if you've never played the game, it still totally works.
I've not played the game.
Yeah, because I actually went on and I was like, I'm sure there's loads of Easter eggs in this thing So I actually went and looked up on the Easter eggs, and there was this article I saw that was like 56 Easter eggs in the Fallout thing that you never noticed. And but I thought that and even the way they draw the characters, like there's a character called Maximus, and he right from the word go is a very intriguing, is this a good guy?
There's
things that he does. Like there's a bit with a bear where you're like, "What are you doing?" And it's I thought it was quite funny. I thought it was quite good, and I quite liked it. And I think it deserves all the praise it's getting, because I think as an adaptation, I think it's really well done. And I'm looking forward to season 2. Which is not always the way I'd say with when these shows come out. So, because I feel like it will actually go somewhere. And I feel like if they're going to ask questions in season 2, they're going to answer them. And they're going to leave you some more things to say, okay, these questions is answered, but we have some more questions to answer, as opposed to never answering the question, which a lot of these TV shows do. So, yeah, I like Fallout. I thought it was good. So, until next week, when we will get to... when maybe some more of us will get to see challenges. Maybe Shaun will just go watch Fallout again. And Walton Goggins.
I'm tempted to
excellent.
Yeah, Walter Goggins is class. Yeah, really
Walton Goggins is excellent. Yeah,
I am tempted to do a Disney subscribe, because damn, I'm gonna get one of those free ones because I quite fancy Shogun.
Oh yeah. Do that. Do it for a month.
Yeah,
for a month.
Let me know if you do, when you do, because I will then watch Shogun.
Okay.
At the same time.
I will. I'll send a message, and maybe we could all do it. Maybe do a month thing, and then Shogun. And I think there's a lot.
I have Disney anyway. So
do you? I'm pretty sure there's a lot of Star Warsy type spin-offs that I haven't seen. Which...
There are a lot. From what I've no, you said you didn't like Andor, right?
The Andor, yeah, I saw Andor. That was the one in the thing. It was all right, yeah. But I mean, that was with Dan, but he hasn't got it now. So.
All right, cool. Cool. So until next week, when we will see something. But at the moment, it is looking as if Netflix is going to win next week. So until that time, it's a goodbye from me.
And it's a goodbye from me.
A goodbye from me.
Thank you very much for joining us.
And a goodbye from Max.
Bye, Max.
Bye, Max. Bye, cat butthole.